So for this Sandbox episode, we're excited to still be together on location in California where we spent the last few days, and we are going to be with our good friends from the SquaredCo Podcast, our friends Mark, who I'm touching.
You are.
Why I had to tell you.
Thank you.
You can see that I'm touching
I'm pretty sure Mark knows.
Do it again.
And Jerrod Maruyama. Welcome, Jerrod and Mark, to the show.
Hey, good to be here.
Are we supposed to clap?
No, that's narcissistic.
Yeah,
I thought about it.
Yeah.
That's our show.
Yeah, we only clap for ourselves on our show. Okay, so we're just going to jump in real quick and just, we need to get to the cookies because while we've been waiting to get this stuff set up, you've been trying to get us to eat these cookies and trying to explain it to us.
Show this here.
Get a promo spot.
It's from Dough.
Sponsor us?
We do sponsor the SquaredCo podcast.
Exactly. We're getting double.
So necessary.
So one of my coworkers brought this to he didn't bring it to the office. He brought the name and then the menu. So for the past probably 2 weeks, I've been thinking about these cookies.
Yeah.
And I thought this would be a great opportunity to actually go ahead and finally eat them.
Question, have you been thinking about these cookies whilst you were pumping iron at the gym for 12 days?
Yeah,
12
it
hours
looks
a day?
like you have a superhero costume on under your t-shirt.
It looks like you have a dozen of these cookies tucked under your skin. That's what it currently looks like.
I look like.
But they're like not in a nice order. They're just lumpy.
I sat on the sun for a couple days.
There's a smaller Patrick that comes out of this Patrick.
He smells much worse. All right.
Patrick outside of his cookie suits.
Did you say toots or suits?
What do you think?
I guess either one works. All right, so tell us what the cookies are.
Oh man, I'm gonna try to remember.
Let's do three. Just this one looks interesting. That one looks interesting. That one looks interesting. So what are those three?
The waffle one?
Yes.
All right, so I'm just gonna go through all of them. Sorry.
I like it.
Power move.
All right,
That
so
is a power
the top
move.
two here. Oh man, I'm so excited
Your
right
voice
now.
hasn't caught up to your body
His
yet.
body's
That's okay.
changing. It's a very exciting time.
All right, so these top ones here, they're called Smookies, and it's like a hybrid cookie s'more deal.
I see that. It's like a chocolate chip cookie
It's-
with a s'more.
There's
top
a
of a
graham
graham
cracker
cracker.
on the bottom,
Whoa.
a chocolate chip cookie with melted marshmallows, and a Hershey square.
Yeah.
Then we got a creme brulee.
I mean, yes. Continue.
There's a creme brulee cookie.
It's got like the flamed sugar, like the burnt sugar on the top.
Then I think this one's called the funfetti. It's like a sugar cookie with some
We have two of those.
funfettiness.
Skip to
in
that
there.
one.
There
What's
you go.
that
Then
one?
there's it's like a hybrid waffle cone cookie.
Like a snickerdoodle.
We're gonna have to. Oh yeah, snickerdoodle.
Snickerdoodle
A woofie.
Waffle. A Wookiee.
Oh, it would be a Wookiee.
It would be.
A Wookiee.
Do it.
Or
Wookiee
a
cookie.
waffle.
All right, who's doing the Wookiee noise first?
I'm so glad this is a video format now. That's my favorite thing.
Okay, what's that one?
I have no idea what that one is.
Faster,
seasonal?
faster.
Was that
That's
the
the one
seasonal?
that Patrick gets.
Apple pie, I think.
Apple
That's
pie.
that's
Oh.
salted chocolate chip.
Faster.
Yes, this is not cookie
No.
cast.
Salted chocolate chip.
Then we got you got it. Chocolate with peanuts and a Reese's embedded in it. And this is the craziest one. I think it's a sugar cookie with a ton of mashed up cereal bits on top.
That's
Oh,
So it looks
like-
like Fruity Pebbles with like maybe
Yeah.
Lucky
so what do you
Charms
have?
marshmallows.
That's what's in there.
Yep.
So you got one of those.
So we'll
Okay.
just
That's
start
what-
eating these
We're
during
gonna
the
eat
episode.
these whilst
Right.
we talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So that makes
I
sense.
feel like since
Pick
we're
your
all,
weapon.
we're all live, this is going to be just more of that giggliness.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
That's what
Extended
this
hour
is like.
here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
listen. If you listen to our show at all, you already know it's giggle.
And there's
time.
a Disney chance. There's a decent chance that we might have to split this into two things because
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
knoes what's going to happen.
So the
you know?
first 3 hours will be the cookies. Yeah.
There we
All right,
go.
so let's do this. Let's.
Luke just goes, it's definitely Cookie time.
I think we need a logo that comes up.
Why
Right
would he
then,
do
right?
something
Yeah.
that stupid? I developed this habit when we weren't on video for some reason.
Oh, my
Like as a way
goodness.
of keeping my mic set. And now
Does
I
it
just
look good
keep
though?
doing
It
Jerrod's
looks
like,
cool, right?
Guys, I could
Fantastic.
be at Wonderground right now making money. That's what Jerrod's thinking.
All right, okay. Around the table, let's kick it off. Jerrod, it's you.
Yeah,
What?
you get your cookie.
Something.
Oh, well, I have my cookie, so
You
I'll
have
eat
to
mine.
eat.
That's
Jared
fine.
cheated
And then-
and put his in a
It's the
bag.
cereal cookie, though. That was
Okay.
the one I had to have.
And you got to
Yeah.
tell us something new and noteworthy. So, we have to make it quick because
Oh.
there's a lot of us.
New and noteworthy?
Now we're doing quick.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't have to be, but just what's something new and noteworthy in your world?
Not much. Well, busy. We're working for DesignerCon, getting ready for DesignerCon. That's coming up in November. What's the date?
November 11th and 12th
Right.
at the Pasadena Convention Center.
Are you guys
Right.
going to be podcasting there?
We're gonna try to figure it out. I don't know.
We'll probably have a side conversation with you guys about how to do do something live like that.
I'm
Yeah,
going to take
yeah.
pieces of cookies.
Yeah.
Is that all right? So we're going to
The
like
answer
we got a
is
lot
we
to
don't
answer.
know.
So that's my that's noteworthy for me is DesignerCon coming up. That's really just a promo.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's just.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
People are eating cookies.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
So that's it. You've just been preparing.
Yeah, but that's gonna be big. So I'm gonna have
That's
a
it?
lot of stuff coming out. Yeah, just did a signing, but that's past. I want to look at the future.
I
So
like that mentality.
yeah.
Whoa.
Always forward.
You had your first speaking gig.
I did have that too.
How'd it go?
I don't know. I left my body for about half an hour.
How do you feel like it went?
I don't know. Like I was happy with what I was saying. Like I wrote it all out, and I was happy with what I was saying, and I felt like it was sincere in what I wanted to say. The delivery, I really can't tell. Like when you're up there on stage, it's so different than.
Yeah.
Like it immediately changes how you feel, and like I can't hear myself anymore. I can't really gauge the audience. So.
I'm gonna be honest. I saw your right hand, and
Oh, I
it
know.
looked like this.
Did you see that? With the,
Yeah.
If I wasn't holding that thing, like I lifted it up to move the slide, and I'm like.
Like you just went through 6 slides.
Whoa, 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 slow down. I can't take notes fast enough.
But it's funny, like, and then the minute you guys came on stage for the Q&A at the end, fine. Like, that was great. Like, it's a completely different thing, you know? So,
Yeah, it was. It took. I think it was about the first like 2 minutes where you could tell it was like.
oh, yeah, my voice was like,
Yeah, and then it sunk into like a really comfortable rhythm. And I'll say this: like I talked to several people who said it was their favorite talk of the day. Like it
oh,
went over
that's-
really, really well.
Wow. Well, good
Yeah.
to hear. That's
And
very
then-
nice. I kind of ran out the door afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
But it is a totally different thing because like so I've never gotten so Andrew spoke as well, and then we ended up doing like a QA, and we haven't done something like that before. And you're right, like. The idea of having to address a crowd, like just you by yourself.
You did an intro.
He did?
And I was doing that too.
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
was
yeah.
dying.
Patrick sat down.
Because I didn't know what to do, I got nervous, and so for some reason, my response was to take more time. That's how I handled my nerves. But doing the QA, like you said, is like somehow that was super comfortable.
Yeah.
it was fine. It was like doing this. Like you didn't feel nervous at all. But something about having to talk to like I don't know. It was just
no,
weird how it
it
changes.
was so comfortable that I kept forgetting the question halfway through. And like, you can probably see that on the live stream. Like halfway through my answer, I'm like, I don't know where I was going with
can
this
you
at all.
say
I'm
the
enjoying
question-
this.
Oh, look at this hand. It's as steady as a rock. A rock steady?
Surgeon's
Yeah,
hand.
rock, that's a
Yeah,
phrase
rock
for a
steady
reason.
is a phrase.
Yeah.
All right.
Old friend. It's a villain, right?
So Mark,
Why would I take a drink mid-laugh? That was stupid.
that's normal.
Spit take.
Mark, you're
What did you say?
Spit take.
That's not what I thought you said. I'll say it off
Okay,
air.
yeah.
all right. Mark's next. Around the table.
I feel bad because this is I'm going to take Jerrod's. I'm also going to be at DCon, and I'm totally. I mean, right now all I'm doing is prepping for DesignerCon. So
Yeah,
I'm
lazy.
actually.
Lazy answer. But yeah, true.
I'm trying. So last year I had to split a
Between
booth.
working out, I mean, really, what
There's
else
not
can
that
you
much
do?
Time, right? Last year I had to split a booth.
What's it
with-
stuffed with?
I don't know.
The creme brulee.
It's stuff with creme brulee.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh
Let's-
my gosh.
Here,
Holy cow.
friend
That's
time.
There you go.
All right, I'm gonna take a bite while I'm answering.
Good.
So
Yeah.
Gross.
That's professional.
Did you say gross?
Yes.
Oh man.
Good, gross.
Nice and close to the mic now. Get that thumb right there. And say, there. Oh,
Why would you false listeners?
yeah.
all right, so DCon. Last year I had to split a booth with one of my friends, and this year is going to be my first time ever getting like a full booth space to myself. So I might be going a little overboard, but I'm getting custom removable walls built so I can bring in these walls and have the two sides of the booth
Oh, cool.
as walls that I can kind of create like a
Gallery kind of?
yeah, an on-site
Nice.
gallery. So that was my
That's awesome.
my plan.
I don't think it's overboard. I mean, whenever I go to these events, the reality is that I feel like I know 10% of the people. And so, like, the way that I judge whether or not I should be paying attention to them is kind of how elaborate their booth is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yeah.
I don't think that's wasted at all. I think there's people that will literally end up buying from you
I hope so.
only
That's the
because it's
intent.
like that next level, you know? I
It should
think
look
that's great.
like all your profits are going right back into that booth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably what'll
Yeah,
happen
exactly.
with this. Just it'll be a wash.
Yeah. Well,
But the hope
that's a
is
win.
that I'll be able to use these walls for future
Right,
pop-up events and other conventions and,
And
stuff
honestly,
That's a
like
really
I mean-
fun idea.
I mean, what they were saying about it bringing legitimacy helps. I mean,
brand.
there's so much. People are so visual that
Right.
that piece will even if you hit a washer, even if you take a bath. Why are all these things
Take
having
a
to do
bath.
with like water? But
spa.
spa. That's what it is. It goes back to
Call
that
back.
theme.
Yeah.
But even if you lose money on this time around because you're putting so much money into investing in it,
Yeah.
you're
What's
creating
that
a
one?
presence, and it's all marketing, and so people think and know like, oh yeah, that's a company that is established enough to be able to do this. I think it's smart.
Yeah, definitely. And I think because Mark's art is so terrible, it'll help elevate it a little. And
Wow.
maybe get some
Well, thank
customers.
goodness
So,
I'm
Wow.
not displaying any of my own on there.
Oh,
so.
Here's
Thank
what I've just
goodness, thank
noticed. You guys have
Love.
been doing the podcast for what, 2 months now, 3 months?
we started
Short.
recording in April.
Well, it's tricky. Yeah.
We don't need to tell the whole. Yeah.
So I'll tell it because Jerrod doesn't like
This
to
is
elaborate
why our
on things.
podcast episodes are 9 hours long.
We started,
This cookie is amazing.
which one?
Which one?
The apple one.
The apple.
Is that what that is? Apple?
I don't know,
pie.
but
I
this
think
one
it's
you
like
guys said
apple
is apple
pie,
pie.
yeah.
It tastes amazing. All right, keep
So
going.
we started
really good.
recording in April as like test runs.
Yeah.
And I don't think we started airing until like mid to late June.
Because
Oh.
those
We had,
first ones
like-
were just terrible.
There's
Like,
probably like 4 or
terrible.
5 that we recorded that will never
Yeah.
see the light of day.
Right.
And then it took me a while to figure out how to edit and put all this stuff together.
There's peanut butter in there.
This one's stuffed. Keep going.
So yeah, we've been recording a lot longer than the episodes have been available.
Okay.
Ah.
Okay. This has peanut butter in it. I probably shouldn't be the one talking right now.
Do you remember the question you asked?
Yeah, that's a great story.
yeah.
So here's what I was going to say. You guys have been doing the podcast for a period of time now.
Thank you.
Correct.
And some undisclosed period of time. And you have already, the two of yours relationship has already like completely warped how nice Jerrod is to everybody else. You have already gotten to a place where
No, I think you're
Where
right.
he's a dick.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when we started, I had no idea how much I'd hate Mark. So it's helped on the show.
I love
the
it.
dynamic.
It's like that. So we got that question yesterday that was about the hobby versus professionalism or whatever. And it was like, no, I think we're professionals because we hate what we do most of the time.
Yeah, I think a hobbyist loves what they do. Yeah,
right.
exactly. Okay, so is it over to me now?
That's you now.
Okay.
This is actually nice because the table forces the form. Like it forces us to
flow.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
and the cookies force us to have
Grow.
to go
stay
work out
stay
later.
on topic, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I also spoke at Reimagine, and that was a fun time. It was interesting. I didn't know how it was going to be, like how the audience was going to be, but they were great. Had a great response. Heard lots of great things afterwards, and so I'm also grateful that it's over. But it was fun. It was a good time. And other than that, it's just been prepping for this trip and being on this trip. We have so much fun stuff planned. We're into the next couple of hours. You peek behind the curtain. We're all going to be doing a big meetup with the two podcasts and then a bunch of people at the Grand Californian. I think we're going to have at least 30 people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
And you haven't sent out. You still have to tweet out your people.
We did on. Oh yeah, tweet. We have to tweet. We
Yeah.
haven't tweeted yet.
I'm surprised. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Not
There's
expecting that at
Yep.
all.
Just from the people we know that are coming, we have at least 20 people.
That's great.
And that's just the people we know have like RSVP'd or
Yep.
whatever. So that's exciting. And then after that, tomorrow we get to go to Disneyland.
Yay!
And we're going to be doing some fun stuff at
Did-
Disneyland.
Okay, sorry. I just want to. In Disneyland will be great, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bunch next week and all that kind of stuff. Also, something great that happened to Andrew. He got attempted rob today.
Oh, yeah.
He almost forgot to tell. But before you tell that story, now this is the cliffhanger. I just want to point at the cameras. I do want to ask you real quick. When talking, does it not feel like weird to have to talk about yourself? Like when you're giving your talk, like. I was only up for the Q&A for like 20 minutes, and it felt uncomfortable. Like I don't know if it's like an egomaniac or what it was, but it felt uncomfortable having to talk about myself to other people.
You don't love yourself as much as they do.
But obviously, there's a portion of
twice a day I love myself.
We are getting a different side of Jerrod Maruyama.
But I'm saying because 20 minutes of your talk, you were having to give your background because they have to have context for you to talk about your next piece. Same thing for you. You probably spent 15 minutes or so. Was that uncomfortable? What was that like?
No, not for me. I mean, this isn't the first time I've done this. It's just the first time I've done it here at a conference. And so I wasn't very nervous at all, and it wasn't awkward because I recognized the piece of it is you have to create a sense of context for people so that they can trust what you're saying later. The fun thing with me was I played with the dichotomy of that a little bit. I talked about essentially most people, Jerrod included, you talk about the work and with the work that you do, that's what kind of qualifies you to give you the opportunity to kind of speak into people's lives because you have experience or whatever. And the thing that qualifies me to do it is not my work, so I got to play with that weird kind of fun dichotomy. And at the beginning, I kind of disqualified myself and said, I have no business talking to you. And that's why my talk really wasn't about me, really wasn't about us. It was about what we've learned from people like you who we've had on the show. Yeah. So it wasn't awkward for me at all. I enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, I think you get to a certain level where it seems silly if you go too far the other way and sort of refuse to acknowledge what you've accomplished.
Sure.
Right.
You don't have to be boasting, but it seems silly if you're like, no, that's ridiculous. And you don't want to take away from, because so many other people are involved, it seems silly to just say across the board, it's not a big deal. So,
and also for you,
I'm very aware of it. How I wrote what I wanted to say. I was very conscious of, let's not go into stats. Things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to acknowledge the accomplishment, but I don't need to dwell on it. It should just be the...
But I think for you, it's important to acknowledge it on the other side of it of saying, you don't want people to just assume that they know who you are.
Right.
Because after you were done, or even while you were talking, the audience was captivated with what you were saying. When you'd pull up the Tsum Tsums or you pulled up the Hipster Mickey, they were like, oh, he did that? They didn't automatically know that necessarily. And to go into that assuming that everyone would know who you are also breeds a sense of arrogance.
Sure.
Yes, exactly. So it's like a double-edged sword in that way, right? If you go too far one way or the other, now you're right back at sounding kind of arrogant.
Right.
That's how I balance it.
Yeah. So that was it. The trip has been fun so far. We have some cool stuff coming up.
Let's talk about robbery.
This morning, somebody attempted to rob me while I was on my run. It was scary.
Good story. So my week.
I was I was planning on going 5 miles, a little over 5 miles, and I was coming back, so I was 2.5 miles into my deal, and was at a cross street, and it was a red light, so I was waiting. I pulled my phone out and was looking at it, and somebody came up beside me and asked me if I had any money, and I said, I don't have any money on me, and then I just kind of put my phone back in my pocket, and the light turned green, or the walk thing turned on. So I started going, and he kept walking beside me, and he said, "Come on, I know you have money." I'm like, "I don't have any money." Essentially, called me a liar. He said, "Fine, then I'm taking your phone," and he grabbed my headphones, and as he grabbed the cord, I kind of yanked my head back, instinctively, and pulled them out of my ears. And just for whatever reason, instinctively, I turned and just shoved him as hard as I could, and then just ran. And I didn't look back for a couple of blocks. And then when I stopped, my heart was obviously I was running, so my heart was racing. But I was shaking. It was really kind of terrifying. I didn't know. I mean, I'm fine now. But the rest, I texted Patrick and Luke, and he's like, "Do you want me to come?" I was still 2 miles away. Yeah. And he said, "Do you want me to come pick you up?" I'm like, "No, I kind of feel like I need to finish this out just to get the nerves." But the whole way back, it was. I'm giving everybody a wide berth because I was just nervous, but I'm fine. Everything's good, but it could have gone the other way, I guess. In my mind, like I feel like what I did in shoving him, I didn't look to see what happened, but I feel like I shoved him and maybe he tripped into the street and accidentally fell into the back of a cop car, and then they just took me straight.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, that's how the story played itself out. So, and there's nothing to say that that's not what happened.
Yeah,
so
let's go with
that's what
that.
we're
I
gonna
like
say.
that.
So, anyway, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty scary. I mean, I think you're right. Like, you kind of have to counter him surprising you like that by kind of surprising him with
Yeah,
Right.
with
and it wasn't intentional.
It was
It was just
instinct.
like
Right,
100% instinct. And I can't remember the last time I shoved somebody defensively. I pushed him hard. Like I'm sure he had no idea that was coming. Because like who pushes people? Like that's a weird thing in general, right? Outside of like I don't know. It doesn't seem like
You
that's
like
a thing.
push people like joking around and stuff.
Yeah,
like, but
it was like I was pushing to save my life.
Yeah,
is what
sure.
it felt
Do you
like.
think it would have been more or less shocking if you went in for like a hug or a kiss perhaps?
No, I'm gonna embrace you.
let's just hug it out.
yeah,
Let's just
maybe.
hug it out.
Maybe I don't know.
weird.
It was so, which I guess it would have been just. it would have been. It was
Hug
just
it out.
so.
No, I wouldn't have robbed you if you did that.
Yeah. No, Andrew doesn't remember the color shirt the dude was wearing. He doesn't doesn't know roughly how old he was, or like he didn't ask for his birth date. I'm just kidding. Like his haircut, like he doesn't. It was just like shove and go.
Yeah,
So.
it was. Yeah. Anyway, that was it.
Hey, it's Luke. Guess what?
What? There's a microphone. Okay, so this week, I mean, it's super easy for me. It was just getting ready for this trip, scrambling to finish projects before we left, and I did. Thankfully, they're all done. And I mean, it's been a blast. Like this weekend was really good. It was. We did some Q&As, and I mean, I shared in front of people that I don't like talking in front of people. But it was really easy with like you guys around, and like when we were just talking to you, Jerrod, like that was way easier because I was just doing this, you know what I mean? And it felt like this, even though there were like 70 other people sitting and watching. Normally that would terrify me, and
Plus the hundreds of people watching online.
well, I didn't think about this, thankfully.
Now he's nervous.
I'm now nervous. Thank you. But it was really chill and really fun. I was really nervous to introduce you. And you can tell because it was really bad. It was like this guy. I was like, listen, it was like this dude is my best friend, and he's super fun to hang out with, and I'm really excited.
Congratulations, Chandra and Andrew.
Like, here's to many more.
Raise your glasses.
All right, everybody, raise your glasses. No, I was like really nervous to do that, and then after that, it was fine. Like everything was really chill.
Because then you got off stage and I walked up.
Yeah,
Like, after I introduced him, everything was fine. Like all my nerves were fine.
Yeah, but like being up there with you guys was
Yeah, it
no
was a good
problem, and like the Q&A was awesome. There were some really good questions from the room, from the the Slack or Twitter or something. It was really cool to be able to talk about this and like why we do this and how we do it, and a little bit more like information of some of the like logistical things. Like we've shared that stuff on here, but it was cool. It was really fun. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the meetup tonight. That's gonna be awesome to see a lot of people. Yeah. And Disney tomorrow is always fun. Always cool to see people that haven't been there.
Yeah, is it okay? Like I feel like now we can say what's happening the other part of the
Yeah,
week, right? We
Who
haven't
hasn't
said
been
it
there
yet.
that's
We
going?
haven't said it.
You ever
Patrick
been
and
to
Mackenzie
Disneyland?
haven't been there yet.
No, they haven't.
Ever?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be
Weirdo.
fun.
Jerrod was there the first moment to Disney.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So what are we talking about Wednesday?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's time. Like,
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, let maybe Patrick do it. Maybe let's let Patrick. Let's let Patrick do it. Hey, while you're transitioning, let me say this. No, hand him the mic, but this is what I was going to say.
What do you want to say?
You guys, if you're listening to this, you are missing out.
Yes, you are missing out.
You need to watch this on YouTube 100% because there's so much happening in the room
This
right
is
now.
gonna break my teeth.
There's too much happening in
Yeah,
the room.
Jared's having
Save this
overload right
for
now.
Siobhan.
The cookies have a predominantly
do.
like cinnamon something smell to them, even though they don't taste like cinnamon.
That apple must be that apple pie one.
That
Yeah.
apple pie one was.
That
and the
waffle
waffle are
one has a
strong.
lot of cinnamon.
Yeah, it's like the yes.
This
It-
is fun.
Snickerdoodle.
Yeah.
Whole time
Yeah.
has been cooked.
Okay, so one thing I noticed when I was watching the playback of your talk, Jerrod, is that I look mad at you the whole time.
Yes.
Like the entire playback is me just like scowling at you.
Here,
like,
I'm gonna pull that up.
angrily. Yes, it's.
What's your problem?
We spent like the better part of 30 minutes laughing about how finding matter like still shots of
During
just,
the Q&A part?
yes.
Oh my god.
I just
that's
look so
hilarious.
pissed at you. Okay,
That
So you want-
was better than anything we've done.
You want to let Jerrod know face to face that it was
before
real,
you watch it back,
Yeah.
it's
I
no,
can
it's
that
see
you
your
meant every
disappointment
growl
on
and
your face.
I swear I didn't mean it, but it looks bad. Okay, so there's burps behind you. I just keep depositing them back there because I don't want to offend our guests.
too late.
So okay, all the normal stuff. I mean, I did the same thing everybody else here did. The reimagine and we're doing Disney and all that kind of stuff, and that's fun. New and noteworthy. Like I'm trying to think beyond what y'all named. I know I like doing this. It's just comfortable.
Fitting as
Oh wait, do you have them?
Yeah.
Like disappointed
Look at
Patrick.
That is
that angle is so
That's
good too
fantastic.
because it looks like you're like 6 inches from his
know.
face.
either our album cover or
It's
our
like he's
new
just so not.
sitcom.
Wait, did you
happy.
save all of these?
I took two. I took
Okay,
two
what's the
screenshots,
next
and
one?
here's the other one. Like he's so mad.
He's trying to punch you in the
It
face
looks like
so
you're ready
bad.
to start fighting him.
Look at my hand. It's like one of those televised fight advertisements.
Yeah.
And that's what it
Oh
was.
my
The
God.
whole
There you
time
go,
you're
yeah.
talking, that's the camera angle. Is
Goodness.
me just
Oh,
being
shit.
upset at you.
That's
Even I look
fantastic.
angry.
It's
That's
good
wonderful.
stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all the same
that's
new and
great.
noteworthy stuff as everybody else. I just realized I don't think I have anything to contribute to this time.
Why don't you add what is happening the rest of the
So
week?
that's right. So I'll do that. So basically, so we're finishing up here, and then we're gonna do the meetup, which is gonna be exciting. If you missed it, you missed it. We have some great giveaways, and just can't wait to do all that kind of stuff. We have giveaways. We have like gifts for everybody at the door, or at least the first 28 people.
Not
Not
GIFs.
GIF.
Yeah.
Thanks, not GIFs.
GIF.
Okay, thank you. And then we're leaving here. We're going to San Francisco because we are touring Pixar.
Amazing.
And I am
Ooh.
super pumped for this.
That's
so
awesome.
we've talked to. You have to remind me because
Josh Holtzclaw.
Holtzclaw. I keep thinking Eric because we've been talking about Eric recently.
Yeah.
We talked to Josh Holtzclaw and we got to set up it's like a 2-hour tour where we get to go in. It's around the lunch time, so
Yeah.
I guess we get to go to the atrium
We're gonna have lunch. Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But my big thing is I want to go to the club, like the bar. What's it called? It's called the
Yeah, Tom.
It's like calling it like the
Whalen
Lucky
went to it.
7 room. Like I don't remember what it's called, but it's
so
like
there's two. There's the Love Lounge,
okay.
which I think was the original one.
All right.
But
Is that the
really
one you have to
tiny.
walk
You
through the-
go
yeah,
through
okay,
a little
yes.
like it's a air vent or something.
Yeah, it's like going into a
Literally
crawl
like
space.
that.
Yeah.
Like we got to go in when I went, and I was like panicked if I could fit. Like I didn't want to go in because I thought
You thought you couldn't fit?
if I get
Patrick
shut
has
down,
to, Patrick has to stay
your
outside.
head won't get it.
I'm excited about taking a picture with my phone, just reaching it through the vent and snapping a photo.
So yeah, there's that, and then I guess it was the guy whose office it was originally. He moved offices, so he did it again at this new office, but it's more of like a Batman, like you do the head of the statue or something.
Press
and
the
Yes.
button
Yeah,
and like
Oh, that's
yeah.
bookshelf.
awesome.
So that's what I'm excited about going to. Yeah, because we talked to Tom before, and he said that he got asked to contribute some art to the wall, which I don't think he
amazing.
has yet.
Yeah,
But
he's nervous, and we keep making him more nervous by saying, "Yeah, this is your one chance."
keep
You gotta make
badgering
sure-
him.
yeah.
But anyway, that's it. You know, between Club 33 and Pixar, it feels like these might be like once in a lifetime things. So just super pumped to do it. And then there's like tons of excitement planned for the week after. But I'll save that for a later
Yeah,
podcast.
that's
So
not necessary. So let's just do this. This is so open format. I know we've gone around the circle and we've gone back and forth. About,
cookies
hey,
are
how do we
great.
want to do this? How do we want to, make this happen? Because we have the two podcasts coming together and everything. Why don't we just talk about some of that stuff a little bit? Let's talk about the podcast. Not necessarily in like a glorified way. Let's get maybe a little bit like down and dirty into some stuff. Like you guys have talked
Sure.
about, like we had some good conversation over the last couple days, Jerrod, about some of the like lessons that you've learned, either the hard way or that you learned even before the process. Like what is different about being on the other side of the chair? Because we've like talked extensively, if you've listened to the podcast before, about how you, Jerrod, are great at asking great questions. And then when we chatted the other day, it made it sound like you're like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I knew how to ask questions before. And it's like, so just kind of maybe talk about that phenomenon a little bit.
Well, I mean, there's so many like elements that you can't control. And, you know, when I've been on your guys' podcast, you guys run the thing, and I'm just there to sort of throw in a question. So that's pretty easy.
Sure.
But when you're kind of there with the guests and they're looking to you to lead them, that's a very different role. And so much is going on in the moment that you're not thinking of. I mean, it would be nice if you're just sitting across and having a conversation, but you're kind of juggling all these things at the same time, trying to listen very carefully to what they're saying so you can give a response back that makes sense, but then Mark's internet's dropping out, and I'm trying to figure out, like, do I need to talk and fill in the space until he comes back, but I don't want to alarm the guest and make them stop talking. So I think it's all of the other stuff that comes tumbling in that I don't know that you can prepare for.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you just have to learn it as you go, and then hope you get better, and then you hope you don't make the guest uncomfortable.
There's a lot more juggling that goes on than I think we both were anticipating. So like what Jerrod was saying, you can, on paper, it seems easy. Like, oh, I have these questions. I'm going to ask them this way. But depending on the guest and how comfortable they are talking and the answers they give, it may direct the conversation in a different way. So you got to figure out how to get back there. And then, you know, we have to work within each other, too. So it's not just me directing a conversation or Jerrod. It's both of us directing a conversation, and there's a third party involved, sometimes multiple guests. So I think during just the record itself is difficult trying to, and we weren't anticipating how much juggling and finessing that whole process was.
So what have you done to help mitigate some of that, or what do you do now to?
I mean, to me, I think it's just about getting comfortable with doing, multitasking and still appearing, polite to the guest, but yet getting things done. And like I said, I don't know that you can. You just have to kind of get used to it, and then
Prepare for the unpreparable stuff.
And then it gets a little easier as you go. But I mean, so you're so busy doing that. You have the last thing you're thinking about is how you sound and your energy level and all that stuff.
There's a whole nother
then you hear
angle.
that back, and
have you found that you have to? Okay, so I'll tell you what I found. You can agree or disagree. This is not my normal personality, or at least I don't perceive this as being my normal personality. So I think that, like, if I'm at work, I have like 20 or 30% less energy.
Yeah.
But then, like, when we're doing like the intro, or I feel like I'm like exaggerating my face and doing hand things and talking louder and like doing inflection and. But it feels like if you don't do that, like if you do your normal voice and then you hear it back, it just sounds like boring and deadpan.
Yeah.
And so have you found that with yourselves that you have to exaggerate your personality?
Well, Mark's pretty deadpan, but for me, like,
that is okay.
Like, you have to go up to like 200% just to sound normal.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
it's not like you're sounding like a nutball or like a radio DJ or something. It's just to sound like you're having a pleasant like tone to your voice. You've really got to bring it up, and that took a long time, like both mentally and then just like hearing your voice back and like hating it so much that you're like, I got to do something.
Right.
Did you find any verbal tics that you didn't like?
I don't think I'll get. I say like absolutely every time. Like, I think that's my like.
I think I've said already a handful of times here. I say totally or like
Totally.
Yeah, that's my when I don't know what to say, but I'm agreeing with you. Totally, I do that a lot.
And then I find I'll giggle a lot or kind of laugh through it because you want to encourage the guests. You want to laugh at their joke, and so then all I hear is my terrible like fake
giggle.
laugh.
Yeah.
Like
Mark
so
Bricky
charming.
talked about that a little bit with us. I don't know if it was on air. It may have been on air, or maybe it was a
I don't know.
conversation.
He called us out.
I don't know
little
if he
bit.
did.
Yeah,
I don't
go
know
with
if he
that.
did, but
Go
he
with
was
that.
more that he was talking about his, like, one thing that he learned with himself is he would, with some guests, he has to kind of help encourage them, egg them on a little bit more than other guests who are a little bit more free with their, with their talking. And what he said was, like, saying things like, saying things like, yeah, or totally, or, absolutely, like, to say, yes, I'm with you. What he has done in the back, like on the back end, after having to probe people along, is he edits his audio out for that, so that people don't have to hear him egging the person on.
That's a lot of extra work.
It is a lot of extra work, but
It's also his job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he also is pretty successful in it, and so that's after he has said that, it has helped us be it's helped me be a little bit more aware of that. When I say that stuff, it's intentional now, and so I'm trying to get to the point where I have to get out of my own head with it, but certainly if you go back and listen to episodes if you listen to episodes a year ago versus the last couple of months, you'll hear less of that from us after that advice from Mark, because the people listening, the audience listening, is listening to not hear us encourage them. They're listening to hear that person answer.
Right.
I am amazed. I mean, on that point of how much editing can do, and it can still sound invisible. But wow, I think you can take a 50% show and bring it up to at least 75. Editing it, tightening things up, and
video makes that exponentially harder.
I'm
but
sure.
It's hard to.
But then you
match that
kind
stuff
of
up.
don't want to talk as if you're going to make the edit. So it's kind of that balance of like, well, we got to.
You want it to feel authentic still.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is why so often
The other benefit of having multiple hosts, you guys have 3, we have 2. You can kind of rely on the other person to help you out. In
Yeah, to pick up
points.
the slack, or
so
like if you are stuck.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I mean, obviously, I'm not the most talkative of the group, and then there's a lot of times where I'm stuck just trying to formulate a question for myself because they're handling the other questions so well. So there's times where it's like, I mean, we have our Slack going actively while we're podcasting because we're all in different areas, like you guys.
It's like a traffic control.
Right, and so it'll be like, okay, I'll take this, and I'm working on figuring out what I want to even ask, and it's so helpful with extra guests, or extra hosts to not have to feel like it's.
There'll be a lot of times. You're right. Jerrod is the better question asker. Well, he'll get in a groove, and it'll be like 20 minutes, and I haven't said anything.
Yeah, I'll let Mark on.
I don't want to interrupt it because I'm like, this is good stuff. I'm just watching him go on and have this great conversation, and then like, oh shit, I probably should get back involved with this.
Yeah. This is also I'm on the bill for this too, right? Yeah,
Someone commented on that on one of the episodes.
Oh yeah.
Like for you guys, I'm wondering because I'm curious too. Like, and without naming names, obviously, have you had a difficult guest in that? The responses aren't what you're thinking, or they're not talking enough. And then, what do you guys do? Like, have you devised something to address it, or do you just on the fly figure that out?
So there's actually 2 scenarios. One scenario,
we call one the Ratner scenario, based on nobody in particular.
the man is so beautiful, we're distracted and can't think of anything else.
The Ratner effect.
No, so one scenario is that the person is so practiced with their answer because they've done interviews before that they can just talk for 30 minutes and not be interrupted, and that's like a weird.
Because they think they know the right direction that the answer is supposed to.
Or they try and steer it to benefit.
So
them.
you'll say what's your name? And then 30 minutes later they're still going, and so that's and that's fine, but at the same time sometimes it is. We know that we're getting the same spiel that everybody's that's already gotten from this person,
right?
And so we know that if you've already listened to these 3 interviews and you listen to this one, you're going to turn it off in the first 5 minutes. And so we want to stop that because we want to talk about something else. And so it's not that we don't care what they have to say, but we know that if someone is that automatic that they're giving us stuff that they've already given to the last 10 people, and so that's a tough thing. And those are moments where you just have to. You just have to cut them off. I mean, it feels uncomfortable to do, but you just have to start. I mean, kind of talking over them and force the conversation. So thankfully, there's only probably 2 guests that stick out in my mind that have done that. But I know that those were kind of 2 weird situations. The other is you get the really short answer, right? And you'll
with nothing else, with no further.
There's no
nuggets
jumping ground from right.
There's no nuggets that are oh, you mentioned this in that answer. Let's dive into that a little bit. It's just hey, I saw that you did this piece where it's blah 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 blah, and I think it looks so inspired, and it made me feel blah blah blah. What was it that was inspiring that piece? I just really, I saw this color palette and I really liked it.
Yeah. When the question is
damn,
longer than the
what do I do
answer.
now? All right, well, Patrick. So that's when I'm feverishly typing. Patrick, someone else take this.
We've had that happen. I don't know that we have a way to handle it. What I noticed that we do.
Good to hear.
What I've noticed that we do is we tend to start asking more personal questions.
Yes.
We start asking more because the idea is that if you get excited, and it doesn't mean happy excited, it just means
Something
emotional
slightly
on some
jarring,
level,
right.
if you get emotional on some level, that you will talk longer. Like you'll kind of work it out loud. And so if we can ask more personal questions, then it kind of dredges up some of that emotion, and then we do get the more long-winded responses. So when we have someone that's really short, we tend to like ask more pointed and again more personal questions. And it's not because we're trying to it's not that we're trying to make them uncomfortable. We're trying to hit a point of emotion for them so they can like start like letting it out. So now.
Yeah.
I don't know, like we've walked away from a couple interviews and thought like, man, that was kind of uncharacteristic of us. Like it may have gotten a little too
real or too
like a little
or-
too whatever. So
for a primarily entertainment podcast, like we've gone slightly Dr. Phil.
but I'll say
like that kind of deal.
but both extremes are pretty rare. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know if I'm not sure that we're that specific when we pick our people, that we're making sure that they're charismatic or whatever. But I will say, for the most part, it seems like it's been pretty rare that we've had an uncomfortable situation. Probably 1 in every 15 interviews, or 1 in every 20 that it's a little odd, and we have to fight with it.
Yeah.
Cool. So
There you go.
Patrick, you take it. Yeah, let me transition this one. Slack is very helpful
Did
to
you
like cue
ask
that
the
up.
question,
Everybody
answer
looked
it,
at
and then
somebody else.
it just died?
You know what's funny to me?
I didn't ask it. He asked it.
I looked at
Jerrod.
Mark. I looked at Mark. I'm like, "What's next?" And I don't know why, but that was. And then internally, I physically thought, "Oh wait, this is like we're running this. Like, why am I looking at Mark?"
Okay, but I do have one because I think this is really, really important. So, in we're talking about talking to people, and a big piece of that is that you have to get in touch with them to start with. Like you have to reach out to them, you have to send an email or a DM or something, and you have to ask them to come talk to you. And that's, I mean, I know the first person we asked was Alex. Say his last name.
Delianis.
Trebek.
Thanks. I still want to say
Post-mustache.
I still want to say Delagiani.
Oh, make it Italian.
I still want to get like crazy with it. Delianis, right?
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. Like I remember being scared. Like, and then when he said yes, I got more afraid because I was like, now I'm gonna say something stupid. He might yell at me while we're recording. This is a big waste of like my time, and like hang up violently from Skype, which is really just clicking the X. And then like
Just yelling at you though, right? Not Luke or Andrew.
No, they're fine.
Specifically.
But like it was honestly, it was scary. And then like we got up to actually doing the interview, and I was just like nerve wracked like the whole time, right? And that's started like, I mean that's gone away now. I mean there's probably 2 people in the world that would make me feel that way, but like it was terrifying. So
Elon Musk.
yeah, no, he seems chill. So how do you do that? Like if someone's going to reach out, like if you're going to go reach out to somebody, what's your approach? Have you never talked to them before? Yeah.
Let me
go ahead.
start from the reaching out perspective, and then Jerrod can take over the responding, because I probably will never get the asking for creative or art advice reaching out question. Jerrod will get those. But I do the reaching out to the artist for a number of different reasons. But anyways, when I think if you're going to reach out to somebody, you have to have a specific ask. You can't just say like, oh, I'm a big fan of yours. Give me some advice. It's got to be very directed.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier for the person you're contacting to give you help. So
Right.
if it's something for SquaredCo where we have a show coming up and I'm going to ask them to participate in a gallery piece, then that's the specific ask. It's, hey, I've got this show coming up. These are the things that I'm asking you to do. Are you interested? And it's either yes, no, or maybe, But it's very specific what I'm asking them and hoping to get out of them. And then for the podcast side, we've got this podcast. We love your work and would love to have you on as a guest. Are you interested? Yes or no? Before SquaredCo started, I was like artist, illustrator, designer, and I still would reach out to other artists. And I think I would get better responses when I did have a more specific and direct ask. So my relationship with Jason Young, who's Invisible Element, started with one of those, and it's carried over into the SquaredCo side of things. But I asked him like very specifically, I'm just starting out in art and design. I really admire your work. I'm not doing so well on the Illustrator stuff. What are some like tips, tricks, and tools that I can do within Illustrator to kind of help me get to the next level? So he was really responsive, but I think it's because I asked him specifically about a program, and he can say, look here. So that's my long answer. Jerrod, how do you respond to?
No, so I'm gonna do that side of it.
Yeah, you're the other side. Well, or I guess you could ask, or like, how would what's like the better type of question you would respond to? Am I on par with how you should do it, or am I way off?
No, I mean I think, it depends. Everyone's different. Everyone approaches things different, and it depends on sort of their personality, I think, more than a proper way or an etiquette. I don't think anyone's saying like, oh, they asked the wrong way. I mean, of course you should be, It's like when we ask people for the podcast, everyone we ask, we know very well they are doing us more of a favor at this point than we are for them. Right. So we don't have much leverage. We are, we know we're asking a favor. And so that changes the tone, and, we kind of try to state that, not in so many words, but, try to say what's at stake here. I mean, we don't try to promise them something weird or like, all 10 of our listeners are going to go buy your thing now. All you can do is be polite. And I think that goes across the board. Just be polite. And if someone does respond, respond back. I've stopped answering every single email because you don't hear from them again. Like, you'll write this long email of this advice and stuff and trying to be sincere and, like, look at their work and stuff, and you don't hear back from them.
Right.
And so sometimes they just really want to... like a contact or, something like that. They want to get something out of it as opposed to really getting the question. But like you said, I think a specific question, maybe not like yours sounded pretty tough, like
which
advice
one?
on Illustrator stuff. Like, so general. Like I can see if you're very specific about what you're doing. But again, these are just people. They're all just human, and we tend to forget that, especially the more that we like this person or know of their work, it can be intimidating. I still feel that way when we have guests on. So I think all you can just do is be polite up front and like don't waste their time.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of a specific question. To me, I need a non-response to be a no, the same way as like a no would be. So so if I ask someone, I either need to get a yes from them, or I need to get a yes or no, or I need to be able to take their non-response as a no. So I'd like to be very specific. The other thing I would say, like my advice to anybody would be, don't write 4 paragraphs. I mean, nobody, like, you don't want to open an email and go through that. You need like 3 sentences, get to the point of what it is, and then we can go from there. And
that's been a learning curve, though.
That has been, because I started with
a 4-paragraph introduction email, like legitimately.
Let's spend a paragraph talking about us, and let's spend a paragraph talking about you, and let's spend a paragraph talking about the night of
the other people we've had on. Like, there was a qualification that was all happening, and now it's a lot more like, for me, if I find an artist on Instagram, which happens all the time, I'll direct message them, or I'll even do it in a comment sometimes on one of their posts and say, hey, I love this. Would you consider being on the show? If so, just direct message me and we'll talk. And then we get into that piece of it.
And so I think that's, keep it short. I don't think you need to write more than 3 sentences. I think you do need to have a specific ask. Even if the ask is like, how can we move further in this conversation? Right. And so that's what I'll do sometimes. I'll like do a very broad, like, love what you do, would love to talk to you. So specifically with podcasts, I'll go ahead and drop in a link so they can go and sign up. But if not, I'll say, what questions do you have? Mm-hmm. And then, so like I'm asking them to let me resolve like any questions, concerns, whatever. So I don't know. I love be specific. I would say be brief. But the other thing is just don't be afraid. Like, people are so generous, and I can't speak for other communities because this is the community I'm part of. So I'll speak for this community. This community is super generous. I mean, people want to help others. They want to give them advice. They want to see them succeed. Luke dropped his phone. and that's a really, really cool thing. Like, I mean, the first time we talked to you, I remember it went from, Andrew's got your hipster Mickey, right? And then all of a sudden, like, we're talking to you on the show, and then suddenly, like, you're back on the show, and like you're like guest hosting, and it was this bizarre thing. Like, why would this like obviously talented, successful person
talk to us,
on the other side of the country? Yeah, it was bizarre. And then And I realized like it's not like a charity thing. It's because there's a lot of people in our community that want to build community everywhere. And so just just do it. Don't be afraid. Just reach out to somebody, because the worst thing that happens is they don't respond. I have people that don't respond to me. And I just write them off and hope bad things happen to them. No, I'm just kidding.
So
Put 'em on the list.
I want to circle this around now because of time. Like we all have to go get stuff done.
Eat more cookies.
We have all these cookies to
I'm
finish.
sick. I'm gonna throw up if this goes another 30 minutes.
But I want to know how people can connect with you guys, how they can follow what you guys are doing, and both individually and then as the podcast.
They can't.
How they can. Okay,
Yes.
that's super simple. Well, that's it for this episode.
That's our strategy. Find us.
I just have to say that's a terrible strategy.
Finding that out.
I'm not all about giving unsolicited feedback, but let me just let you know that's a bad strategy. So.
No, so on all the social medias, it's pretty simple. We're at SquaredCo. There's no spaces or anything, just SquaredCo. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
But that's not just for the podcast. That's for like the shows and the
Right,
the artwork.
that's everything. If you want to listen to us, we are now on all the major podcasting listening services. So
Nice.
that's Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes. I think so. We started on SoundCloud. So and we didn't get onto iTunes and Stitcher till a little bit later in the game. So episodes 1 through 18 currently are only available on SoundCloud.
They're exclusives.
Yes.
Right.
Nice.
So
SoundCloud. That's
Sound
the new
Clown?
one.
The SoundCloud exclusives.
Yeah, so if you want to listen to the early episodes, you have to do it through SoundCloud. But moving forward, everything should be available on iTunes. So I think that's primarily where people listen to podcasts. But yeah, that's how you can get in touch with us, SquaredCo.
And then my stuff is just at jmaruyama.com. That's
How do
my
you spell
personal website.
Maruyama?
That'll be in the show notes.
Can I do it? Okay.
Here he goes.
MARUYUAMA.
Yes. Use it in a sentence. No, so close.
What?
Wait, hold on.
You panicked at the end.
Yeah.
Is it just YAMA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously.
So I added too many U's.
So like
Yama.
the Japanese names, it's easy. You just take it syllable by syllable. Everything's broken up into Maruyama, like all Japanese names.
Oh, it's easy when you say it.
So is it a Japanese name?
No.
Okay.
It should have still applied.
Yeah, it's easy when I do that.
What an idiot, everybody. Let's end this thing.
All right, well, let's go ahead and cycle this thing around and wrap it. Every week we draw tokens to figure out exactly what we're going to talk about the next week. Well, this week we don't have our tokens with us. They're in the suitcase. So, since we have Jerrod and Mark with us, we're going to have each of them pick a category for one of us, and then that will help us decide what we're going to talk about next week. So,
Cool.
take it away.
Can we bring back the long lost book category?
No. No. Good Lord.
No, we can't.
Absolutely not.
Actually,
I do appreciate the throwback, but my
all
palms
right.
just got sweaty.
yeah. Mom spaghetti.
I mean, maybe because it's like a special thing, we should give them. Because I always think you guys should have your own category.
Okay,
That's
okay.
what I love, and I know it's a
Yep.
rare thing because we
Boo.
can't. Do you want to mix it
No,
up?
it's fine. It's fine.
No, you can pick
Well, here's the
something
deal.
else.
He's going to go first, and then you could just throw a wrench in
There
the
you go.
whole
That's
thing.
what I mean. That's what I mean. So I will start with Luke, and I will give him toys and games.
Thank
That
you.
is super nice of you.
Absolutely.
Are you recommending, though, that whilst we're here, the toy he buys and talks about is the hipster mini?
That's the
Anything
condition. That's
from
the one
my
condition.
line of underground.
Oh,
that was assumed.
it could be the Kingdom of Cute,
That's
too.
right.
You have so many
That's
options
right.
at this
Right.
point. Yeah.
All right,
So
fine.
tricky.
You can have TV and games, or
Oh,
TV and film. TV and film.
Yeah.
All right.
We should say that Mark's never listened to this show before. This is a good time to say this is his very first one. Okay, so then I get art and design. This is fantastic. This is a good week. This is a good week to have art and
I
design.
got cookie crumbs on
yeah.
my hands.
I'm going to Pixar.
Right.
We're going to Pixar, Patrick. You should have things to talk about for TV and film.
Sure.
Yeah.
Only if it's in the bar area. Like if they have some things like in there, like if there's a movie on, while I'm sitting in there, I'll talk about that.
Okay.
While
In
your
Pixar
head
or
is
Club
in
33?
the hole.
No, with a Pixar Club. What are you
Okay.
talking about?
Okay.
We talked about it earlier.
All right.
Look,
Do you remember the name of it? You said Love Lounge.
There's
and
a Love Lounge and then Lucky Seven Lounge.
Yeah,
Seven, okay.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
All right, so then we're good now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get out of this episode. You can find, like Jerrod said, all of that information in the show notes and the links below if you're watching this on YouTube, which, like we said, you should be watching this episode on YouTube. And then like this video,
you
share
should
it.
be able to.
Yeah, this hopefully will be visible
Should
on
be
YouTube.
on YouTube.
But then you can also find it on mf1podcast.com where you can find show notes and links as well. Is this going to be on your guys' page?
No.
Sure.
Okay.
Never.
Okay.
No.
This is terrible.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay. Like, we will not be airing this garbage.
Let's not talk about that.
We're not going to commit to anything right now. I feel you kick him underneath the table. But you can find it all there. Check out their podcast as well on iTunes. But then also share all this stuff. So connect with us, connect with them. We're all in the M of One podcast Slack community. So if you want to connect with any of these guys at this table, you can do that, as well as 200 other creatives and artists and incredible people. You can support the show by, like we said, liking this, sharing this, going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the show. That's super helpful to us. And then if you want to just cut a few bucks our way. Is it called cutting?
Yeah, cut
Sure.
the bucks our way. Cut the bucks our
I
way.
remember my great-great-grandfather saying,
I'm gonna cut a couple bucks your way, Sonny. That's what he said.
Then you can just go to patreon.com.
Hey, Andy, I'm gonna cut some bucks your way, bucko. No, he's again. What did it, everybody?
is there a cut your bucks button on
I don't know,
Patreon?
maybe. Yeah,
Okay,
there'll be a
good.
cut your bucks button. But go to patreon.com/M1podcast to subscribe to that.
Yeah,
whatever.
that's it.
You
Do
know,
it.
just do it, and it's helpful. And that's how we're able to do all of what you're looking at here. That's how we afforded this amazing place. No. But a big thanks to Noah Elias for letting us use his studio space. It's incredible. Patrick, why? Yeah, the camera loves you, and you love it. Social media, just search M of One Podcast on all the different platforms.
Yep.
Connect with us on there. It's going to be fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
Is it?
But for now, we're going to get out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Luke.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Jerrod.
Peace out.
Bye.
C is for cookie.
Hold on to your butts.